Great. Good night and welcome to Mindful Live 143. I am your host, Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. I'm streaming live right now on TikTok and Instagram and over on YouTube. If you are streaming this on TikTok or Instagram, you can feel free at any point in time, some point later, if you are so enthused, to head over to my YouTube channel, Nathan Springer, over there on YouTube, and you can feel free to subscribe. There, you'll be able to get the rest of the lives. As you hear, we are on Mindful Live 143. That suggests there are 142 others out there, which you would be able to get access to over on my YouTube channel. So you can head over there. And it's not only the lives are over on YouTube, there are other videos also. I've recently gotten some free time back inside of my back pocket somehow. Well, actually, I haven't gotten any free time. I've been making some extra time to, get some of those YouTube videos back pumping. I really like the YouTube videos. To me, out of even my TikTok content and my other content, my general YouTube videos are some of my favorite because they allow me to, actually get the thought that I was thinking out there. So they are out there. Usually they drop during the day, 9, 10, somewhere there. If you are interested in such, being sure to subscribe there and like the videos. Hit that like button. Just by the way, if you're in the live, hit that like button in the live over on YouTube, in the repeat of this video over on YouTube. Whenever you're looking at this, hit the like button. It really does help. So yeah, one of the videos I did over on YouTube recently, we're talking crime tonight, but just to get back to that a little bit, just browsing over some stuff. I'm doing a review video after every week of the Mindful pods that we are doing, the learning pods. They are off and running. The learning pods at Mindful Education are off and running. They are going well. I actually really enjoy teaching that. I was saying this during my review over on YouTube, and usually I have been teaching now for probably upwards of 16 years, somewhere there. And for the majority of the time I was teaching and tutoring, the age group I taught was generally that CXC Cape age group, somewhere 15, 16, 17, 18, there and thereabouts. But a lot of the learning pods that we are doing now, it seems like the majority of the attention we are getting in those are at the early primary age group. And I kind of enjoy it. Something that I enjoy. Good night, every sore loser. Go get abscess. What a name. Yeah. I enjoy teaching that earlier age group. It allows you to see kind of the beginning of some things. And some of the problems I've had with education, some of my falling out, long time talk heavy, yes it has been. Some of my falling out with education, I could kind of see the origins of it. And Ria, that's my question too. How they come up with these names? You could see the origins of it, and I could look at the students there and you could see the kind of schooling they're getting, the kind of school they're going, the kind of attention they're being paid to. And one of the most important things, as I said, my review for this week was on questions. I went through several articles where they've done studies on children and questions. There's a correlation between IQ and the amount of questions children ask. Generally speaking, smarter children ask more questions. Generally speaking. And there are different kinds of questions that children tend to ask. And something they were noting in one of the studies is that a lot of the education system, the school system, actually is only the teachers asking the students questions. And the questions are very basic in the nature. They don't pull anything out of the students. So there's an encouragement in there. Look at your child, look at the children under your supervision, at children under that you are interested in their betterment. And see their questions, see their question levels. Greetings, see how many questions they are asking. And one of the red flags I would say look out for any child in school is if their questions are starting to dry up, if children are starting to become too anxious to ask their questions, too nervous to get questions out, worried about looking bad, etc., then they are in a bad learning environment. Children ask embarrassingly weird, strange, unique questions. It's the very nature of children. And something you'd notice generally is as the child reaches that 5-year-old age group, as soon as they jump into primary school, all of a sudden these unique, interesting, creative questions just dry up into nonsense and boredom. That's not good. If here's this logical process here. If children with higher IQs, more intelligent children, generally ask more questions, might it not be possible that by encouraging our children or children under our supervision, under our care, to continue asking more questions, we may help to encourage children to be more intelligent? Isn't that a logical next step? I would hope so. Talk Heavy says, I've learned a long while ago to never tell a child to hush. I totally enjoy talking to children. Me too. Me too. Now, there's a unique balance to be had, because in order to educate a child, in order for a child to learn, discipline is one of the most important things. If you're teaching a child and you're so focused on the child enjoying learning and just being free in the expression of learning and interest and intellect, you have no discipline, then learning is going to be problematic too. So it's a delicate balance where you allow the child's curiosity to pull them forward while still being, to a great extent, under the hold and rigor of formal discipline. It's a unique thing, and we are threading that needle over at Mindful Education. If any of you are interested, as I've said before, you can head over to our Instagram page, Mindful with 2 L's, Mindful_education. Head over there and you can follow that page for updates, and the number and contact information is there. We have age groups, early primary pods, that's around starting of primary, and we actually have a preschool student in there if they're advanced enough, if they're understanding enough. Early primary, then there's the later primary age group, then there's early secondary and later secondary. If you are interested in such, hit us up. All right. This evening, though, we aren't talking education really and truly, at least not mainly. We're talking, unfortunately, crime, which, as is the news every single week, probably every single day, seems to continue to be a runaway issue here in Trinidad and Tobago. Crime is a problem. What's new? And the nature of some of what we're going to discuss has to do with a concept of NIMBY. I always enjoyed the first time I saw that NIMBY, NIMBY. It means not in my backyard. And we're going to be looking at some articles where you could see the nature of crime and criminality and how it is formed, how it is not formed, how it is fought, how it is encouraged based on interactions and behaviors, and the ability of even the law enforcement to work within communities. Communities are the key inside of a lot of this. All right. So we're starting off now with the fact that, according to the government, they're saying they are paying attention to this. They know the crime is out of control and they're going to do something about it. My question with a lot of these things is, what exactly can the government do? We've seen the government attempt to stop crime many times before, and my opinion is a lot of their attempts don't generally leave a lot of enthusiasm in me when I look at them. But nonetheless, they are trying. Murder surge, urgent matter for JSC. The staggering increase in Trinidad and Tobago's murder toll is expected to be brought to the fore as a matter of urgency at the next sitting of the Joint Select Committee on National Security next month. On October 25th, the United National Congress, Arapuch East MP Rudal Munilal and Senator Gianti Lachmedial wrote to JSC Chairman Keith Scotland requesting an urgent JSC meeting in light of one of the deadliest long weekends in recent memory, October 21st to 24th, where 17 people were murdered. Wow. Scotland responded to their letter. The letter said, "We are of the view that it is critical for this committee to interrogate the chairman of the National Security Council, the Minister of National Security, the leadership of the TTPS, and the heads of all intelligence gathering agencies, including the Strategic Services Agency, as a matter of urgency in order to ascertain what, if anything, is being done to curb the spate of senseless killings which has claimed the lives of innocent children, and more importantly, to bring perpetrators to justice. Okay, so are they really? Sir asks. That's the question. And Talk Heavier says the government can't do much. The weight of responsibility is on us. Okay. Now, that's kind of the question I always ask when I see things like this. How much can the government do? What can the government really do? What are they able to do? Now, this here is kind of what the government is able to do. They're able to make a joint select committee where there are several members of parliament, and they could go and hold a meeting, and maybe something would be done about crime there. Now, the hope here, the functioning of this governmental institution, how this is supposed to work, how this is supposed to function, is that the Joint Select Committee is supposed to have quite a bit of power over the institutions that the government oversees. As the MPs pointed out, as the opposition MPs pointed out, they want that Joint Select Committee to bring in front of them the National Security Council, the Minister of National Security, the TTPS, etc., etc., etc. But even if the Joint Select Committee is willing to do that, and they bring all of these people in front of them instantly, drag them before them and bring answers, and they say, well, we're trying our best. Now, I've spoken about this numerous times. Our Commissioner of Police, one of his tendencies to say, one of the things he tends to say, is that they are trying their best. And I've spoken about that before. Personally, I don't want to hear that. That is probably one of the worst possible statements you could say as the Commissioner of Police in a country like Trinidad and Tobago. If people are living in this country and the police service says they are doing their best, and at the moment, crime is running out of control, that is a scary thing to tell me. You're telling me that at the best, when the police are at their very best, crime is already out of control. That doesn't put hope in my heart. I'm sorry, it really does not. But even if this Joint Select Committee was able to drag all of these people in front of them, what are they going to do? Demand answers, and the people will give answers, and the situation will continue. That's one of the unfortunate things about in many people looking to the government and looking to politics for solutions to a lot of these things. Now, it's the government's fault. It's the government's fault. I remember a statement I like to always keep in mind, a statement from Dr. Rowley when he was in opposition, and he was saying that if the government does not have a hold or a handle on crime or something to that effect, then they should not be in governance. He said that. It was wrong then, and I think it is wrong now, because I don't know how much of a direct control a government would have on crime like that. Like, I don't know how many things a government could directly do, 1 + 1 = 2, that's going to instantly reduce crime. I'm not sure how many direct things there are like that. The government is in charge of policy, and policy is a kind of upstream effect to crime. Hopefully, by implementing sensible policy, as a downstream result of the sensible policy, we'd see a reduction in crime. That's the hope. To me, and I've said this before, I've harped on this particular point many times. To me, one of the most important things the government could do there is, if you are not able to protect people, ensure that people could protect themselves. And it's insulting to me for the government to continuously be taking measures upon themselves that they are going to somehow stop crime, not doing anything about it, but nonetheless putting it out to the population that the population should keep calm, remain under control, we have it covered. But you don't really have it covered, and I'm unsure what you could do about that. The thing is, what I notice about the crime in Trinidad and Tobago as of late is the boldness of the crime. It seems like the criminals are getting the view that criminality in Trinidad and Tobago is so widespread. The chances of you being caught, if you're a new criminal upstart, the chances of you being caught is so small. So you know what? You don't even need to worry about that. When you look at some of the nature of some of these crimes are very strange. I was looking, and this has strange written all over it. I was just, perusing some of the crimes that happened recently. Arima bandits rob delivery man, steal pizzas, cash. A 47-year-old pizza delivery man was robbed by men posing as customers in Arima on Sunday afternoon. Now, this is a common robbery. Police said the man received an order around 3 p.m. and went to Main Road Maturi to Arima to make the delivery. On reaching the address, he was confronted by two men wearing ski masks and hoodies who pointed a gun at him and announced a robbery. Now, I was reading this and I was like, oh gosh, that's so unfortunate for that driver. The men stole $3,300 in cash. That's what I was wondering about. Like, I was wondering to myself, how much cash does a delivery driver generally drive around with? I would have presumed you would drive around with no more cash than is needed for the deliveries you have on that rounds. You make $3,300 in deliveries in one round? Like, or is it that these bandits just happen to be so lucky they struck the one driver who was carrying all the cash for the day? Like, something just doesn't seem to add up about that to me. It just really doesn't seem to add up about that. The kind of crime that is going on. But that was just by the way. Yes, they stole the breadsticks and the pizzas and $3,300 cash. So that's obvious. What do you mean it's obvious? What is obvious? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what is obvious there. The only thing that is obvious to me is that something is suspicious. Now, there's some advice being given out by the Downtown Owners and Merchants Association. They're saying that as the crime spikes, they're obviously aware that the crime is spiking, but they're saying it's not that we should be losing hope, but we should be taking matters into our own hands, at least in a certain direction. Talk Heavy says, remember he has to have a float to it. The solution is links, transactions, Peter, pay for. I don't doubt he has to have a float. I am just asking, is the float for a delivery driver of pizzas $3,300? Like, how much money in deliveries does one driver make in a day? That 3,300 sounds like that has to be more than one day even. You understand what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to insult anybody. I don't mean this as an insult. I'm just asking a question. The man probably had deliveries before the Arima run. I don't doubt that. Let's say the average pizza delivery is about $150. $150 is the average cost of let's put it at $200. $200 the average delivery he's making. 200 into 3,300 is what? 2 into 1,000 is 5. That's 5 threes are 15, 16. Are you telling me Pizza Brother made 16, at least 16 $200 deliveries? 16. Brother, how many pizzas fit in the box behind the scooter? How many pizzas fit there? Are you saying he made at least 16 $200 deliveries and then went up to Arima last? Plus tips. Wait. I'm being careful how I phrase this because I don't want to sound like a bad person here. But y'all tip delivery drivers? Y'all tip delivery drivers? I heard KFC delivery reach $25. I am sorry. The way how my finances are made up, I am not going to tip you on top of $25 delivery fee. It's just, you know, it's just not in the way my finances are crafted. The way my budget is done. When I budget for a piece of KFC and the KFC comes up to $110 or something like that, and then I pay $25, so it's now a nice $135. When the driver reaches and I give them the $135, I tell them thank you and good night. I used to, but I live in the bush now, so nothing can reach it. Well, I mean, if you go out of your way, that's another thing, but you just pull up and the delivery cost is the delivery cost. I'm sorry, I'm not tipping anything. Anyway, I just find something sounds strange about this driver and his delivery and how much he had on him. That's just unique. Those bandits, they seem to have just been very lucky. They were very lucky. They picked the driver who had all the cash on him. It seems like all the delivery drivers accumulated their cash in one driver, and he was the courier for all of the cash. And those bandits were just so lucky. They called for a delivery and got that driver. Anyway, the Downtown Owners and Merchants Association is telling the population, though, do not mourn. Do not mourn. Organize. The Downtown Merchants Association says there is a creeping sense of hopelessness about the current levels of lawlessness and crime taking place in the country. The following is a press release from them. We write at a time of a creeping sense of hopelessness about the current levels of lawlessness and crime taking place in Trinidad and Tobago. There is no dispute about the grave state of affairs which threatens the peace and security of every single citizen. We take encouragement and inspiration from the pronouncement of the Commissioner of Police in advising his officers recently not to surrender in the face of the serious crime surge. I don't know if I take encouragement in that, but good for the downtown merchants. We feel that a similar sense of determination and leadership must be practiced by each and every citizen in protecting themselves, their families, and their communities. Hopelessness is our enemy, and instead of bemoaning our situation, law-abiding citizens must become more united, more organized, and more defiant in the face of a few lawless criminals who have lost their way and their sense of humanity. This is the recommendation here. In the downtown city center, in the face of rapidly escalating attacks on the eastern flank of the city, businesses, principally on Charlotte Street, but including South Key, formed a committee and together with DOMA presented our case to the police administration. A WhatsApp group was established which included police officers from the CPS and city police and which was used to immediately advise participants in real time if and when suspicious characters appeared on the streets. This has not only brought an improvement in the law and order situation, but has also motivated police officers and their superiors to be more sensitive about what is happening in the downtown city center. From this heightened awareness has come the very recent arrest of a suspect by police patrol in a bold-faced murder on Henry Street, with charges being laid against the accused to answer and be held accountable. So, their advice is to connect. And they are saying they created a WhatsApp group in town and included the police in that WhatsApp group. And they have seen positive results from it. Here's the thing. I could see that point. I could see using the present technology that we have available to us using it more effectively, even in crime fighting. The problem is, I don't think many police services would be very willing to join a WhatsApp group just like that. I think ideally, every community should have some kind of WhatsApp group. Every community should. That should be a common thing. And anything strange in the community, there's the communication that could happen instantly. If each community has a WhatsApp group with the police included in that WhatsApp group, it would become very difficult to say that the police weren't aware of something happening. The thing with some of this kind of advice is what tends to happen is you start to see that everybody may not be as interested in things getting a solution as everyone else might be. Many police not even answering calls, that group would get muted so quick. Exactly. Precisely. You would be in that WhatsApp group sending off alerts to the police, and the police would ignore that. That's what would happen to that WhatsApp group. But I think even in communities in general just being able to come together, there's some benefit to that. And the sad part in a lot of this is what you tend to see is the communities that are better at coming together tend to have way better results than the communities that are not. You see, if a community could come together, they are able to get a lot of things done. The NIMBY idea that I was talking about, not in my backyard, is there are lots of people who they may be willing to have a lot of things done all around the country, but they will never have it in their community. And they have organizations within their community. Organizations are such that they are able to execute these things. While, especially in many of the poorer communities, you never see things like this happening. There's no kind of togetherness really in many of those communities. They don't have the unity necessary to pull off some of these things. I was reading recently Sevilla, or Sevilla, according to how you pronounce it, and checking out a recommendation in that community. And the irony is the recommendation that is being made is being said or proposed as something that in the long run would be to help fight crime. But the community members are like, yeah, not in this community. You aren't going to put that here. Sevilla residents expressed concern about transition home. A group of residents of Sevilla Caroni expressed concern about plans to open a transition home for young women in their community on Monday. They did so as they assembled outside a building in the area formerly owned by the now defunct Caroni 1975 Limited, where a sod-turning ceremony for the proposed home was taking place. The facility is projected to be completed in mid-2023. Resident Chandra Bobat said the residents fully support any government initiative to help underprivileged young people. But he added, what concerns us is that we are living here. We live here by virtue of our jobs with Caroni 1975 Limited, and steps are being taken to use this building without any consultation. First, he said the residents heard all kinds of rumors about what the location could be used for. First, we heard it's a safe house, which is very bad. Then we heard it is a house for youths, underprivileged youths. But then we heard it was a house for battered women. We heard all kinds of things. So we are very confused. Singh added that he would not have known about the sod-turning ceremony had it not been for the fact that his house was nearby. Noting the approximately 120 residents are elderly people, some of whom have lived in Sevilla for 50 years, Singh asked, how is this going to impact and affect us who are living in here? A female resident claimed one of her neighbors was verbally abused by people working in the area close to the proposed transition home. Singh claimed there were more suitable locations for such a facility on Caroni land in St. Madeleine or in Reform, saying the latter is unoccupied. Singh asked, why could the home not be put there instead? listening and reading some of this. And I was just taken aback, noting that what the government proposes to put here, according to the government, is a transition home. The idea is that when young ladies leave what were once called orphanages, they have to leave at the age of 18. Between that 18 and 24, when they are not yet fully adults, they want somewhere to put them. And in between, they don't want to just throw them out there to the wilds, and they cannot remain in the orphanages. So they're building a halfway house. The irony of this is that someone in the community organized a protest on a quick notice. I don't know how many of you know where Sevilla is, but Sevilla is kind of an exclusive community. Not necessarily because people living there are so wealthy, but because to get access to be able to live there is pretty reserved. It's not any and everyone can get to live there. And I note the nature of such communities, that something as simple as a halfway house being moved into that community is enough for all of these residents to organize themselves and walk out there and meet whoever is going to build that halfway house and force a discussion on the topic. I think if you see more communities that function with a similar mentality like this, if you see more communities in Trinidad that function similarly, you would actually see better results in the crime front. You see, that's the problem in many communities. They don't function as a unit. So something could happen in the community, and this one isn't going to communicate that to the other one isn't going to communicate that to the other one, and the police are just going to come in there, they take some random statements about something and then just leave. That's kind of impossible to do something with when communities function like that. There isn't that unity inside of the community. Now, looking at that idea of unity inside of the community, I was looking at an area in Trinidad that had some of the most difficulties of late. In the east, there have been some real difficulties coming out of land worries in the east. Wallafield residents in Fair, as Soldier, takes control of state land. I've read quite a bit on Wallafield in some of the previous videos. We've done a bit of information. We've done a bit of information. We've gone in a bit of information on the land wars in Wallafield. But they're not stopping. Fear has gripped the community of Wallafield as some residents claim they are now being threatened, intimidated, and verbally abused by a serving member of the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force who has defied an order by the Commissioner of State Lands to stop building on state land. Let's look at this. If you go through exactly, KP, exactly my point that I'm going to raise here. One man who isn't some anonymous figure, they know where the man works. He works for the TT Defense Force. They know his rank. He's a corporal. They know where he's attached to the Komoto base. They know all of this. They know what he is doing. He is bullying people on land that does not belong to him. They know all of this, and somehow nothing can be done about it. The corporal who is attached to the Komoto camp base has been deemed as an illegal occupier of a parcel of state land at Demerara Heights, Wallafield, according to documents seen by Guardian Media. The contentious matter was initially brought to the attention of the TTDF last September by residents Dickie Lashley and his 42-year-old common-law wife, an employee of the Ministry of National Security, who wrote to the TT Defense Force. The letter was sent after they refused to remove a bamboo fence at the back of their home, which borders a parcel of reserve land. This led to them allegedly being threatened and intimidated by the soldier in question. Why single out the corporal? Well, you're going to find out why they're singling out the corporal, KP, because this corporal is bullying people who already have, I suppose, certificates of comfort. They're already given legal authority to reside on that land. And when they're planting or building the little bamboo fences and doing the agriculture, he is telling them they are not allowed to do it. He is threatening their life for doing it. And they are writing to the TT Defense Force, they are writing to the Commissioner of State Lands, and this seems like it is impossible to resolve. The employee who requested anonymity subbed in her Stone Street home on Tuesday, pleading with the Commissioner of State Lands and the police service to look into the soldier, whom she claims has become a law unto himself. On August 17th last year, Lashley said the contention began when they were ordered by a member of the TT Defense Force to remove a bamboo fence behind their yard as the soldier claimed the land belonged to him. Lashley said 7 other HDC residents were also instructed not to trespass on the land by the soldier, who cordoned off the area with caution tape and planted pickets in the ground as markers. The soldier also produced documents to members of the community stating he was granted permission by the Commissioner of State Lands to occupy the land and also identified himself as an HDC contractor. All of these things are allegedly fraudulent. There's no proof of that. The Commissioner of State Land denies that. The residents, after doing some digging of their own, discovered that the soldier was impersonating state officials to advance his personal quest to acquire state lands. When we asked about the plan for the area, he indicated that he wanted to build a gas station because the area was developing for business. So this man is impersonating official members of the state, official state agents. He's impersonating official agents of the state. He is threatening people. He is hoarding the land. They know who he is. They know where he works. They know the crimes he committed. And still nothing can be done. This is the kind of thing, though. That allows people to call us Banana Republic. Because, as I started pointing out, the problem with many communities is the dysfunctionality in the community, where the community does not function as a unit to get things done. The community doesn't function as a unit in order to get things done. But it is nearly impossible for a community to do that, to function in that way, if when they attempt it, they recognize the levers of power that be, the people they are supposed to be able to turn to for help, will not help them. Still, there are many people doing that. KP, I find you are starting to sound like you are in defense of this corporal. Many people doing it is irrelevant to this discussion. It's irrelevant. The fact that this man can do it and continue doing it so bold-facedly, that is a problem there. And the community is not being given the support that is needed. The police are not supporting them. The Commissioner of State Lands are not supporting them. The TT Defense Force is not supporting them. 3 institutions that are supposed to be directly responsible for helping to keep our country safe. 3 institutions failing an entire community. And then we wonder further down the road, why is crime the way it is in this country? We want to hold a joint select committee for the joint select committee to call the Commissioner of Police and buff him up and say, what happened to crime? What's going on with crime? Well, this is what is going on with crime. This is what, so often when you hear frustrated residents say, and this is why crime can't done. This is why crime got never done. Yes, this is why crime cannot done. When things like this happen, what you are telling a resident is that if you want to get things done, blessings, Maggio, if you want to really get things done here, don't go to the Defense Force that employs this man. Don't go to the Commissioner of State Lands. Don't go to the police service. No. Save up a 10,000, go find a community leader and ask the community leader to take care of that man for you. And for $10,000, $15,000 and a shady deal with a community leader, that man would be taken care of really promptly. You understand the direction a country heads in with things like this. This is the problem that Haiti is facing right now, where many people recognize the gangs in the country are actually more effective at resolving issues than the police service is. Do you want our country to reach a point like that? Because this is what is going to happen with things like that. This is what, well, it might be that much because he's a member of the defense force, but this is what this is going to lead to. People are going to recognize the legal avenues for my grievances are closed. So I have to find another avenue. What is the recourse? The legal recourse is what these people are doing. They wrote to his employers, they wrote to the people in charge of the land, and they wrote to law enforcement. Those are the exact three agencies to solve. This is supposed to be so easy to solve. The defense force alone. The defense force alone is supposed to be able to solve this, because the defense force can jail their members. All now this corporal could have been sitting in a brig down on what you call that piece there, the peninsula. He could have been sitting in a brig down on the peninsula. That could have easily been done. Just the defense force. The Commissioner of State Lands is in charge of that land. They could have moved in there and ensured that anyone attempting to occupy it is removed. The state land, listen, when they want to do it, they are very able to. You go and try to squat on a piece of state land and build up a mini-mart and try to sell goods on it and see how fast they will move you. And then you would recognize that the people that do stay on state land, they aren't staying there by chance. They are staying there because someone is allowing them to stay there. So the defense force could have stopped this. The Commissioner of State Lands could have stopped this. The police service, the TTPS, these people have evidence. They are willing to give you witness statements, multiple witness statements. Are you telling me you have never even as so much questioned this man? The police service could have solved this issue. 3 separate institutions or agencies could have solved this issue by themselves. The 3 of them together are saying right now it's impossible, apparently. Let's see what has come out of this. Jesse Reyes, one of the 8 affected residents, said he too was occupying the land behind his home, and soldier man come and say he working with state lands. I didn't want any trouble, so I backed off. The kind of people dealing behind there is real criminal activities, is drugs. I don't like it at all. Now, there's a very interesting tidbit. According to many of the residents, they're saying that the big man in the back there seems to be a defense force officer. Also, according to the residents, they're saying that it's criminal activity and drug business dealing in the back there. What business does a TT defense force officer have with criminal drug activity? I don't know. That's the allegation. Unlike Reyes, the determined couple stood their ground, stating that this is what led to the death threats being issued against them. The soldier told me I would end up murdered like one of my neighbors. And bear in mind, people inside of Wallafield are being murdered. There are multiple murders inside of Wallafield over land issues currently. So those threats aren't to be taken lightly. I had to request a transfer to work in Tobago because I was fearful for my life, the employee said. On September 7th, the soldier, Lashley said, pulled up in front of his home telling him, I told you not to plant anything on my property. An occupant in their home was also threatened the same day by the soldier, who told him, "I'm coming back for all you. This ain't done yet." These threats were reported at the Pinto and Scarborough police stations. On September 8th, the couple claimed they were followed by the soldier to Port of Spain, where they delivered a letter to the TTDF complaint department about his misconduct. 3 days later, men wearing ski masks alighted from an army vehicle and uprooted the couple's plants and crops behind her home, valued hundreds of dollars. On September 16th, the affected residents held a meeting with two corporals of the TTDF who took statements from them. When someone's life is lost, then something will happen. Well, many lives have already been lost in Wallafield, and something still isn't happening. KP frontierism, well, is. That is precisely it, KP. That is precisely it. It is being worked like a frontier, free for all. Who has the most power, the most belly, the ability to take the most risk? Take the most. But this isn't a frontier. This is part of Trinidad and Tobago. These are state lands. The couple also visited Camp Kamoto last October to report the threats and gave a statement to Captain Carr about the soldier's behavior. That's when an investigation began, the employee explained. Last month, residents were surprised to see a concrete structure being built behind their homes. In a letter dated October 5th, 2022, addressed to Acting Commissioner of State Lands Banmati Sicharan, the employee raised questions about the construction of the illegal structure in the community and queried if the land belonged to the state. She also inquired from Sicharan in a September 4th letter to investigate if the soldier was an employee of a division. Officials at the Land Settlement Agency, HDC, and the Puna Piako Regional Corporation were also informed about the illegal structure and the tension it has been causing in the community. Listen, I will give these residents lots of accolades. When you read this, you get the idea that these people have been writing lots of letters. They are following everything that they are supposed to do. The letter of the law, they wrote a letter to the TTDF. They wrote a letter to the TTDF complaints. They went to Camp Kamuto. They wrote a letter to the captain in charge there. They wrote a letter to Land Settlement Agency. They wrote a letter to the Commissioner of State Lands. They wrote a letter to the Puna Regional Corporation. They wrote a letter here. They wrote a letter there. They wrote a letter there. And nothing could be done. Are you telling me that blatantly in the 21st century, in a developing country like Trinidad and Tobago, something so bold and criminal could be happening and nothing could be done about it? Is that what we are seeing? I'm convinced we're heading towards failed state status. These kinds of actions are what lead to that. One of the most important things in any country, and I saw someone spoke about that in the comments earlier, is land rights. The idea of land rights and protecting land rights is possibly the most important part of any free state. If you look at nearly any country, Hong Kong, Dubai, even areas in countries where they had a boom in prosperity, one of the most important things for prosperity to move into an area is that article linked on YouTube. It isn't linked, but you could see it as I read it on YouTube. It's a Guardian article, Wallafield residents in fear as soldier takes control of state land. It's a Guardian article and the Trinidad Guardian. Yeah. One of the most important things is land rights. If you want to see how wealthy an area could get, start enforcing land rights. Property rights. I should be able to own what is mine and no one else should be able to take it away from me. I should be able to use what is mine in a form of a bargain to pay for something else. That's the property rights that are essential for allowing wealth to grow and for allowing a country to not be a failed state. Acting on the officer's report, a quit notice signed by Cicheran. Cicheran is the head, Cicheran is the Commissioner of State Lands, and seen by Sunday Guardian, was served to the soldier on October 19th to deliver up possession of the parcel of state land at Red Granite Street, which you are now unlawfully in possession of without any probable claim or pretense of title. So, after all of this writing, after making all of this noise, finally, they got at least the seeming, at least a seeming instance of something being done. The Commissioner of State Lands wrote a quit notice to the officer. And on October 19th, they told him, you are to leave the parcel of state land. The notice gave him 7 days to cease illegal occupation of the land. 7 days. That was since October 19th. 7 days have passed since October 19th, just by the way. It is also advised that legal action will be taken against him if he refuses to comply with the order. When the Sunday Guardian visited the HDC community 6 days after the notice was served, 3 men were seen working feverishly on the structure, which can be seen from the Churchill-Roosevelt Highway. So big man is building a building on the place that they tell him to leave. A concrete building. He is saying, I do not care what you say. The Commissioner of State Lands told him, you have 7 days to leave. 6 days later, he has workmen still building on his place. Apparently, he let them know he is the boss really in the back there. Frustrated by the state's lack of action, the employee said, a year later, I am still awaiting the outcome of the investigation by the Defense Force. I cannot understand how this soldier, who claimed to work for state lands and HDC without showing any form of identification, can forcibly remove residents from the reserve land and be allowed to break the law. So, what I mean doing that would mean the state have to pay to move him. He just started building that structure isn't there long enough for him to claim any kind of payment from the state, really and truly. But we know that things still happen weird, but it isn't there that long. Over a year ago, the residents are saying they lodged a complaint with the Defense Force, and the Defense Force promised that they are going to investigate this issue. A year later, and the residents are saying that they haven't gotten anything from the Defense Force. The Sunday Guardian, and I'll give the Guardian some credit on this, the Guardian taking up these issues for people who do not have as much of a voice. The Sunday Guardian sent a list of questions via WhatsApp to Cicheran on Thursday. Cicheran is the Commissioner of State Lands, again, by the way. To Cicheran on Thursday regarding the quit notice served on the soldier and her next plan of action. Cicheran said, I am out of the country. My staff will respond. I already sent it to her. Now, when I saw this response from the Commissioner of State Lands, something clicked in my mind. Yes, that's what he did, Trini boy. Something clicked in my mind. That response that she was out of the country, and one of her staff would respond to the questions. I was like, why does this click such a bell to me? And then I remembered I did another article where that was her very same response. I don't know how many of you in the live are OGs in the live, people that have been here a while and remember the terror story I was speaking about in Wallafield. As gangsters threatened farmer off his land for illegal mining. And the farmer was talking about the pressure that he went through over and over and over. Illegal gang members kept harassing them and moving them from land that he has legal right to. He has legal permission to be there. gang members keep moving him, and the TTPS isn't doing anything about it. I don't know how many of you remember that. You could probably go back through some of the YouTube videos and find that back there if you are so interested in checking it over. Now, the very important part on that to me was the fact that back then, on June 29th, Guardian Media reached out to the Acting Commissioner of State Lands, Banmati Seacharan, same lady, querying the status of the land occupied by Balkisoon. That was the farmer that was being harassed by the gangsters. Seacharan, the Commissioner of State Lands, indicated that she was on vacation until August and advised that we direct our questions to Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Agriculture. Why is it whenever someone asks questions of this Commissioner of State Lands, she is never in the country? How is the Commissioner of State Lands never around the state lands? What's going on here? Gangsters taking over a farmer who has legal right to be on the land. She's out of the country and cannot answer the questions. A soldier taking over HDC residence plots, ask questions about it, she's out of the country and cannot answer. Something is strange going on there. Something is very strange going on there. And I think questions like this must run up the chain. Who is in charge of appointing the Commissioner of State Lands? Send these questions to them. I would like to know, why is the Commissioner of State Lands never in the country to answer questions about the state lands, and serious questions, questions where lives may be at risk? Something is very strange about that. On Friday, Seacharan promised to provide responses to the questions, but they were not forthcoming. Now, Guardian Media reached out, contacted on Friday, to Captain Carr, who admitted he was instructed to investigate the couple's matter. A report was submitted last November, Captain Carr recalled. The investigation was completed by myself and submitted. So according to the captain at the Komoto camp, the investigation into Soldier Man was already completed and submitted, but Soldier Man is still out there in Wallafield doing the worst. Okay. Pressed if the soldier was exonerated from the complaints levied against him, Carr explained, "I can't disclose that information." How does that make sense? Someone explained this to me. Like, I'm not even in Wallafield and I could imagine the frustration of this. This man is doing what seems to be criminal activities. The TTDF, who employs him and who is paid for by taxpayers' money, said they investigated the situation. They concluded their investigation to the situation, but we can't get an answer about what the conclusion of the investigation was. How does that make sense? What was the point of an investigation if you cannot say if the investigation exonerated him or if it proved that he was guilty? What was the point of the investigation? He said if the couple wants further information, they can send correspondence to the Office of the Chief of the Defense Force for an update on the matter. So the couple that had to demand the investigation, that had to drive to Port of Spain and lodge a complaint, that had to send a million different letters to try to get it this far, if you want to find out anything further, although you were the person that lodged the complaint, if you want to find out anything further, then you have to go and make a request on finding out anything further. That does not make any kind of sense. How does that make sense? If I lodged the complaint, obviously I want to know the status of the complaint. You think I just complained about it for me not to find out anything about it? Of course, they want to find out the status of the complaint. What do you mean that they lodged the complaint? They initiated the process for you to start the investigation, but for them to know the results of the investigation, now they need to come back and request the results. How does that make sense? How does that make sense? This is why crime cannot finish in this country. This is why crime cannot be cured. The institutions that are in charge of solving the problem of crime are causing crime. They are encouraging crime. They are making it difficult to get to the bottom of crime that is occurring. And when you ask for investigation, they do the investigation and then don't release anything from the investigation. How does that make sense? Captain Carr, you are ridiculous. Does anyone know this Captain Carr? I would like to find him on Facebook, so maybe him and I could do a live together. Captain Carr, how about you and I do a live together? And you answer me, how does this make any sense? Where did you learn this special technique? Did the Defense Force fly you out on taxpayers' money? You know the Defense Force likes to fly out their senior ranked officials. Did they fly you out to Australia? Did they fly you out to somewhere in the United States for you to go to a special seminar to learn this? Is that what you learn as a captain? As a captain with your special captainly insight? This is captain level work. And if this is what the captain does while his subordinates are breaking the law, how do you expect the entire TTDF to be running? How can we take allegations? Because long has it been that allegations are that many of the murders, many of the murderers exist within the TT regiment. Many of the hired hitmen are actually regiment officers. That's an allegation that has been out there for a while. And regularly these days, you see TTR shells being found at crime scenes. Up until this weekend right here, a murder in Maribel, I believe, had some regiment shells being found on the crime scene. And how can these things be surprising? Maybe Captain Carr was the one who investigated these regiment shells being found on crime scenes. And Captain Carr realized after this investigation, he didn't need to release anything more. He investigated why these regiment shells were on crime scenes, and he didn't release anything from that investigation. Good old Captain Carr. Asked if he was aware that the acting commissioner of state lands had recently served a quit notice on the soldier for illegally occupying state land, Carr replied, I am not aware of that because the soldier presented documentation from the Commissioner of State Lands office where he got authority from the commissioner to occupy said land. And there we have it. So the investigation that good old Captain Carr did, Carr with 2 R's, I'm making sure his name is out there, Captain Carr did, the good investigation he did, he realized that this corporal produced documentation to show he had a right to be there. Isn't it possible that this documentation could have been forged? Dum da dum dum. No, that's impossible. Because it's not like right a couple months ago, well, that's what, less than a year ago, dozens of state employees linked to suspicious land transactions. Days after an employee of the Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries was arrested and charged in connection with alleged forgery of Commissioner of State Lands letters, another employee has been detained by the police and fake documents seized. During ongoing investigations, Fraud Squad and Anti-Corruption Bureau of Investigations officers also seized a seal used to authenticate documents. So, it's been widely known nearly a year now that there was an operation inside the commissioners, inside the State Lands Department, forging these documents. But Captain Carr, the brilliant regiment officer, you know, these men are trained. These men are trained in matters of security, in matters of national security. And you can't pull one over on a captain, obviously not. These men are brilliant. They have excelled in the regiment. They have, you know, advanced in life. So Captain Carr saw the document from the corporal and that was enough. That document was enough. You have the permission, sir. You are exonerated. Asked if the soldier had presented documentation from the Commissioner of State Lands to occupy lands at Red Granite Street, Carr said, I can't recall the specific parcel number, ma'am, but he presented documentation with respect to a property that was under dispute, and that was part of the investigation. But if you are telling me that he was served a notice to quit, I can only verify once I see the notice and cross-reference with my document I have in my possession. So, here's this very strange thing. Here's this very strange thing. The investigation done by goodly brilliant Captain Carr, investigating whether this corporal was indeed misbehaving. In that investigation, he was presented with documentation, allegedly from the Commissioner of State Lands. Now, if you're conducting an investigation as such, wouldn't the first thing you do when presented with documentation from the Commissioner of State Lands, wouldn't the first thing you do be going to the Commissioner of State Lands to see if these documents were indeed authentic? Like, isn't that step one? Where's, I really need to get this Captain Carr. I really need, you know what? I think I may need to make a trip down to Komodo to the camp to see if I could get a discussion with Captain Carr. I need to find out his new investigative technique, because that investigative technique seems more advanced than I'm familiar with. I would really like to, study under this advanced technique of investigation. You receive documentation, and the first thing you do is not authenticate it. Now he is saying that, now that the newspaper, a journalist, informs him that the Commissioner of State Lands ordered that corporal to exit the state lands, now he is saying, well, now I'd have to really look into that matter, And I can't help but imagine when I'm seeing these things, the picture that strikes my mind with Captain Carr, with the Commissioner of Police, with many of these characters, is that same kind of talk. Wow, I think I'm going to really have to look into this matter now. I didn't know this. I'd really have to look in deeper into this matter now. Here's the interesting thing now, though. Here's how this article ended. Carr asked for the notice to be WhatsApped to him. So, the newspaper WhatsApped the quit notice, the notice that the Commissioner of State Lands sent to the corporal. The newspaper sent that to the brilliant investigator, Captain Carr. He, Captain Carr, later sent a WhatsApp message which read, I am not authorized to speak on this matter. What does that mean? What does that mean? He did the investigation. He asked for the proof that the documents he saw were fake. When the proof was sent to him, all of a sudden, he is no longer authorized to speak on the matter. Someone earlier in the live was saying that almost surely this isn't something where it's the single man involved in this. And when you look at things like this, you get the idea, no, it isn't. Most of these things aren't one person involved. I would urge, whenever the police investigate, maybe they need to pull in Captain Carr into that investigation too. Because this seems almost surely like he is being protected by several people surrounding this matter. This isn't just one random person. And it is ridiculous that in a country like ours, an instant like this cannot be resolved. Something like this is impossible to resolve. No one knows how to solve this. That's ridiculous to me. How is that possible? You know the person, you know where he works, you know the crime, he's committing. You have proof that it is a crime because the Commissioner of State Lands told him to move. You have the complainants because the residents are right there complaining. You have witnesses who are willing to testify. Everything is already lined up and nothing can be done. When I read things like this speaks to me of countries like Venezuela, of countries like some of those countries in the mainland continent of Africa, where the military is a law unto itself, where very often the military kind of partially runs the country too. And the members of the military are basically gangsters. They're thugs that could go out through the countryside and do what they will. One of the most prevalent things in many of those areas are abuse, sexual abuse. And members of the military could do that because no one cares. Internal threats happen as well too. Not saying that's the case, but who knows? Well, if there are internal threats, this man is a captain. The man who is investigating is a captain. The man who is being investigated is allegedly a corporal. If there are internal threats, I don't think the threats are coming from the corporal to the captain. Nonetheless, I think it's from another high up person. One factor is nepotism is so deep-rooted that everyone knows everyone and no one wants to upset anyone. That's true. That's true. That's why, that's the reason I usually say I never want a commissioner of police from inside of the police service. The friend, batch thing, I don't like it. I don't like it. I want the commissioner of police to be running that service like a company, nearly like a service, like a business. People who are not fit for the job should not be in certain positions. Not because they're your friend, not because they're your batch, not because any of this kind of nonsense. And things like that create the kind of gang situation we're seeing now, where the TTDF is a gang. The TTPS acts like a gang. The Defense Force acts like a gang. So if me as a resident of this country, me as a citizen of this country, if I want to get some kind of respite to my complaints, you know what I have to do? Well, I have to join a gang too. Because me by my single lonely self, I cannot get anything done. Me by myself, I could write letters till my fingers turn blue. I could write letters to the Defense Force for investigations. They're going to do the investigation and not tell me anything. I could write letters to the police service. They aren't even going to answer. I could write to the Commissioner of State Lands. Even if the Commissioner of State Lands tells the person anything, it's not like they're going to follow up on the matter, so it doesn't matter. I can't get anything done. I am the resident boboli in the country. I am at the bottom of the chain because I don't belong in a gang. So what you are telling me as a resident of this country is that in order for me to really function well, I need to join a gang. That's the lesson that the powers that be are sending out to the country. If you want to get things done, join a gang. So either I have to go join the police service, I have to go join the Defense Force, or throw up my 6s, 7s, 8, 9s, whichever number it might be. You want to bet if that was some gang member who was living in that HDC house, that matter would have been solved. Wanna bet? So are you telling me that as a resident of this country, my issues would be more promptly solved if I subscribe to a gang? Is that what you're telling me? You see, the solution as a country for that was supposed to be, or is supposed to be, that there's a police service. So I don't need a gang. I report to the police service. The police service solves these issues for me. But if there's no solution, who do I turn to? Frustrating stuff. All right, that's all I have for now, folks. Are there any further questions or comments? Any further questions or comments before I dive out for the night? Yo, brother, good night. Yo, Central Chow Master. Hey, that Chow Lash boy. But hey, that grab and go bag, I think you gave me the super spicy grab and go bag. Listen, listen. I was breathing fire. I was breathing fire. Mama sleeping on the job tonight? No, no, no. She's not sleeping by any means. She's right here, looking to make noise at her opportune moment. What are your thoughts on Double G being shortlisted for Commissioner of Police? I find that to be such a strange thing. I find that to be such a strange thing. Super strange. Because he is in a political party, and at the same time he's in a political party, he is being shortlisted as Commissioner of Police. Like, if he does get the commission job, what does he do about his political party? How would it look for the party? How would it look for the head of a party to be the Commissioner of Police? Like, would he disband his party, like just fold it up after, if he is selected? I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know how he's going to do that. She's so cute, but I'm terrified of holding babies. I know the feeling. I know the feeling, but she isn't that hard to hold anymore. Fly away, buddy. All right, yeah. I wonder if there are any laws to speak on that. I'm not 100% certain what the laws say on it. It would seem like the laws aren't explicit on it, otherwise he wouldn't have made the shortlist. Is Cohen Springer your bro? What do you think if you were to guess? That was one of the most asked questions in the earlies. I'm relieved that most of the people seem to have been satisfied by the answers by now. Yeah, I'm the more handsome version. All right, all right. Any further questions, folks? We'll have to pass sign. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll get a sign. Yes, he is my brother. Just put a sign somewhere right there. Yes, he is my brother. Any further comments, or will that be it? It seems like that would be it for the night, folks. I thank you for being here. I hope you are educated, informed, or entertained. And I will see you guys for the next Mindful Live, which would be tomorrow evening, 9:15 p.m. there and thereabouts. I will see you then. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Head over there, Nathan Springer over there. There are other videos beside the live to look at over there. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy yourself. Like the content, drop a comment, tell me what you think, what we miss. Emmanuel Jones, head over to YouTube. You'll see what you missed over there. Wow. I now recognize I didn't even look at the YouTube comments for the day. Good thing no one commented over there for tonight. All right. Thank you for being here, folks. I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace. Peace out.